Hello, my name is Steve Price, and I would like to have a little bit of discussion about marriages during this time of COVID 19. It's amazing. COVID 19 seems to be affecting everything, right? It's affecting jobs, it's affecting our social contacts, it's affected our security, it's affected our portfolios. Uh, 2, 3 months ago, this was not on our radar. Stock market was fantastic. People were just buzzing along in their lives. Marriages were so busy they didn't have time to either interact nor conflict because there was no togetherness time. And yet, COVID 19 enters into the equation, and we have marital sparks. My wife and I have been married for 35 years this August. And if you think that we haven't had sparks these last 8 weeks, then I have to tell you the truth. We've had sparks. Some of them have been ugly, very ugly. And what I wanted to do was just to address that, because the truth is that it's a bit of a stressor for us, isn't it? It's a bit of a painful stressor, and it exposes who we are. Now, over this period of time, uh, the conflicts that we've had have really allowed one thing to happen, maybe two things to happen. And the first thing it's done is it's shown me just the sin that still readily leaps out at my heart, or leaps out from my heart. Doesn't take much at all, just exposes myself. And think about it. We the normal family life and the pressures of getting the kids to their appointments and taking care of our problems with with bills and of course the job schedule and expectations and meal planning and making sure that everyone has their particular needs met. That's stressful enough. But then you throw on this huge cloud of uncertainty about even if we're going to survive next week, and where is the government stimulus money, and where is this happening? How is it happening? Then you look at the statistics and you listen to the news, which I've had to stop doing, and it's doom and gloom, and then on the good day it's more gloom and doom. And you throw all that together and you just make a perfect environment for tension, and it's tension that is a predisposed tension. Well, we've gone through that. And there are days in which I have just felt depressed, and my wife too. And those days we have short fuses, and those fuses can easily be burned up. Well, maybe you've been like that. Maybe you've been in that situation, and uh, and it has exposed my predisposition to be irritable. It has exposed my predisposition to be anxious, my predisposition to be moody, and all those things have caused a little bit of friction for us. Now, what do you do about that? Do you just say, "Well, that's who I am. You just got to get used to it"? Well, I don't think that's the answer, because I think God was wanting and does want us each to be, transformed into a kind of character that is imitating Jesus Christ. And when I read my Bible, I don't find that he was moody or he was irritable or he was volatile. I find that Jesus Christ was a very steady individual, a very packaged and well groomed individual from a social standpoint, from a spiritual standpoint, from a thinking standpoint. And I think we need to realize that God is exposing us to help us become more like His Son. But the second thing that I wanted to communicate, or that I have learned, is in this phrase. It's recorded in the epistles, and it's in the Old Testament. Love covers a multitude of sins. You see, one of the things that happens when we're in this now proximity with one another, nobody leaves the home, is that we start to maybe notice the annoying habits of each other. And I confess to you, one of mine that I'm so embarrassed to talk about is, for whatever reason, I just can't stand the chewing of ice at the table. Now I chew ice, and if I chew ice, it doesn't bother me. But if somebody else chews, it sounds like gritting of teeth in my ear, and just drives me nuts. And so, and I please don't chew ice at the table, and my family's kind of gracious with me. But you know why they're gracious with me? Because they love me. And because they love me, they let their love for me overpower the offense that I could bring because of my irritability and, self-focus. So the key is this whole idea of love. Now, love in the scriptures comes from God, right? God is love, and we love because he first loved us. And you have to ask the question, well, what is this love of God then? It's got to be kind of unique. And the answer, it is unique. And you can really summarize it in one phrase, a two-word phrase: sacrificial, selfless sacrifice. Selfless sacrifice. And what that means is that you spontaneously will think about the welfare and well-being of the other person, even if it means the ultimate sacrifice of your very life. But most of the time, it means just the sacrifice of your hands and your mind and your eyes and your ears and your sensitivities. That's what the Lord God is to us. That's how he loved us. He took this entity called the love of God, and he has such great interest in the other person that is his creation, that it just flows out like a tidal wave that can't be stopped and splashes on every surface of the human dimension, such that when it splashes in you, it's not to beat against the rocks, it's to actually provide refreshment that you need in just the right way that you need it. And God takes all of his knowledge and wisdom and uses it for that end goal. Now, I'm supposed to take that model and love my wife that way, or my wife to love me that way. Now, that's the second lesson God taught me during these times, that this is where the love of God can be most displayed, most graphically demonstrated. Steve, quit thinking about yourself. I want you to give yourself to think about your wife and what would be for her benefit and for her growth, what would be for her elevation, her appreciation. Now that's been my challenge that I really tried to take seriously these last 8 weeks. And so the practical side for me has been in several ways. Number one, I needed to think about my wife spiritually, so I actually try to get up a bit earlier than she does, and I'll be alone with the Lord. And the purpose of being alone with the Lord is I begin to pray, particularly for my wife, for the struggles that I saw that she had the day before, the discouragements that she had the day before, the health limitations that she had in the previous days. I began to pray about her plans for that day itself, and the ministry needs that she has upon her, caring for other women, caring for the children. And I began to pray that her private times with God would first of all occur, and that they would be so amazingly rich. You see, I began to sacrifice for her spiritually. Now, the other way you sacrifice for someone spiritually is you, of course, be a spiritual person. And that led me to cry out to God about my own life and my own shortcomings, and confess. And that's an amazing thing. The humility of confession goes a long way to allow tension, to diffuse tension. And when you have the humility of love and brokenness enter into the equation, there's no reason to be tense, because there's nothing to fight against. And so I had to pay attention to my own walk. But then it led over to other things and more practical things. I began to see her emotional needs, and I said, I'm going to try to not meet my emotional needs. I'm going to meet yours. And so we've always treasured date night, but when you're locked up in the house, you can't have date night. So I said, well, let's have a table in our bedroom, and we'll put a tablecloth on it. And you know what? The kids got so excited, they put it all out in candles and fine china and you name it, we had it. We were going to watch some movies, and so we bought a lunch or a dinner, and we brought it in. And boy, I tell you, we've been doing that several weeks in a row, and we love date night. I was a little worried about our youngest. She's 8, and she has 2 other brothers. And I'll never forget it. I said, well, sweetheart, we're going to have date night. Is that okay? She goes, oh, yeah, Daddy. I love hanging out with my bros. And her emotional response just so melted us. And it was so cute, of course. And we just really had that time. And I began to think about her other emotional needs. And oh, I forgot my charger cord. Well, I'll go get it for you. You know, oh, you love coffee in the morning. Let me get you your coffee. You don't need to get out. I'll get it for you. And then her spiritual needs, just or her emotional, physical, and spiritual needs, and the preparation of her in the morning, making sure she has time with the Lord. And then we share together about the things He's teaching us. All those things have been allowed because of this at home time. And what I found is that these last 8 weeks, although we've had some moments of pretty intense tension, have actually been some of the most sweetest weeks that we've had in all of our marriage. And when I look back and say, well, how could that have happened? I have truthfully 2 things to say. I saw myself in my ugliness before a holy God, and then I saw the love of God cover my multitude of sins. And He says, now I want you to spread that to your wife. Would you do that for me? And maybe that is what you need today. Maybe that sort of pattern, that flow, is what is desperately needed in your marriage right now. And He takes what can be sort of maybe annoyances, and He just diffuses it so that these become stepping stones to a closeness, because you have obeyed God's word by responding to His love to you, and therefore His love to another person through you. Perhaps that will be the word of encouragement that might give you some strength today. May the Lord bless you.